How many choices do you make each day? Got a number? The average adult makes approximately 35,000 conscious decisions each day. This works out to be 245,000 conscious decisions in a week, 980,000 conscious decisions in a month, and 11.8 million conscious decisions in a year. If a person lives to age 80, that means they have made approximately 940 million conscious decisions in their lifetime. These choices entail what we choose to eat, what we choose to wear, who we choose to spend our time with, where we choose to further our education, how we choose to act, in whom we place our trust, and those we choose to love. All of these choices have repercussions, some we are aware of, and many we fail to acknowledge.
In our thesis, we analyzed the internal and external conflicts between the components of the Freudian triangle and how they affect the decision-making process of heroes throughout their journeys. These choices influence their adventures and the characters they encounter, while simultaneously influencing the fulfillment of their goals and where their loyalty lies.
The Freudian triangle is a part of the subconscious that contains the id, ego, and superego. The id is the unconscious part of the subconscious, responsible for natural instincts and primal desires. It is countered by the superego, which acts as the conscience and reinforces learned morals. These components are connected by the ego, the part that acts as a mediator between the two. It focuses on bringing about change through action and protecting the person from harm through defense mechanisms such as denial, avoidance, and ambivalence.
There are a few concepts that explain the internal Freudian triangle in heroes. These are a little different from the conflicting emotions that we may be familiar with thanks to Disney. These include anti-heroism, dissociation, denial, and death drive. First of all, an anti-hero is not someone conspiring against the hero, as the name might insinuate. Rather, the anti-hero is the central character in a story who lacks typical heroic characteristics. Billy Pilgrim's characterization as a passive anti-hero in Kurt Vonnegut's science fiction novel Slaughterhouse-Five demonstrates the effect of previous events on his current perspective and the significance of internal conflict manifested in external reality. Let's discuss Billy's divergence from the hero monomyth. Billy contradicts the psychoanalytic hero myth through his average upbringing and his other forays in mediocrity throughout his life. Whittles describes the hero when she writes, "The tale of the hero is the story of an individual's first heroic act, his separation from his parents. We find the same theme of separation from royal or immortal parents over and over again in the myths of the birth of the hero." Billy Pilgrim's upbringing doesn't include royals or deities for parents, nor is he truly separated from his parents until he is drafted in the U.S. Army when he is an adult. Pilgrim's status as an anti-hero begins with his average upbringing and continues with his inability to resolve conflicts in several stages of his life. Dissociation refers to the act of detaching oneself from one's surroundings. So when Billy constantly separates himself from his world and from even caring about his world, he greatly distances himself from active choices as well. Billy Pilgrim's occupation in the novel is an optometrist. Ironically, Pilgrim disconnects himself from the present moment and therefore views the world in a blur. Looks like he needs prescription lenses. A moment to Pilgrim simply represents any point during his meandering through time, as inspired by the Tralfamadorian view of the universe of everything happening simultaneously. Pilgrim also demonstrates denial, the refusal to accept the reality of something that generated anxiety by blocking it from consciousness, and the death drive, a bodily instinct to return to the state of nothingness that predates birth. For instance, the Serenity Prayer, introduced in the novel as a nondescript wall hanging in Pilgrim's optometry office, reads, "God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom always to tell the difference." For instance, this relevance of the prayer in the novel represents Billy's response, or lack thereof. Despite its repeated appearance in the novel, the prayer fails to inspire Pilgrim to actively change anything in his life. The Tralfamadorian's understanding of this also contributes to Pilgrim's passiveness. Ironically, his last name is Pilgrim, similar to the word pilgrimage. His journey, however, has no ultimate goal. There is no purpose to it. He is stumbling through a futile voyage so that he does not have to face his present reality. Speaking of internal conflict, let's discuss Billy's Freudian components and how they influence his choices. The internal id, ego, and lack of a superego influence Pilgrim's external actions and provide insight into his mental state. The id causes him to reject societal norms. Pilgrim's id dominates, and his lack of morality is evident when he was being unfaithful to his wife, Valencia. Pilgrim experiences no moral repercussions for his actions, whether it be drinking or infidelity, and even pardons himself for any wrongdoing by insisting that his choices were always meant to happen. Pilgrim responds to events in his life with very little action, becoming a mere spectator who lets things happen to him instead of taking control. Due to his warped sense of time, he believes nothing can be done to change anything. Something that presents itself in the catchphrase, "So it goes." This phrase follows the death of any organism in the novel and shows that whatever happens was always meant to happen, just like Pilgrim's perspective on his own life. The third part of the Freudian triangle, the ego, controls the drive for self-preservation and the need to bring about change in the world. Pilgrim's ego focuses on preserving his life and sanity by avoiding unpleasant memories, by helping him to adapt to his surroundings as well. Pilgrim's ego also helps him to adapt to life on an alien planet by removing any distressing emotions, allowing him to cope with his life even with his war trauma.
Hero, a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Joseph Campbell's hero monument is very helpful in analyzing Luke's journey as a hero. His journey consists of three main sections: the departure, the initiation, and the return. During his journey, he also encounters a mentor, a villain, magical forces, and repeated symbolism of good and evil. His out-of-this-world mentors are Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The vicious villains are Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader, and the magical force present in his galaxy is the Force, the light side. And the symbolism of good and evil lies in the conflict between the Jedi Knights, who utilize the good, aka the Force, and the Empire, which represents evil. Luke's journey as a hero begins when he is called to leave his home. Yoda steps in as a mentor to prepare him so that he can become a Jedi Knight, and this is his supernatural aid. After his training, he crosses the threshold, officially chooses all things good, and becomes a Jedi Knight. Luke must face his instinctual desires when he enters into the belly of the whale, Jabba the Hutt bards, but we'll talk about that more later. Initiation begins with the Road of Trials, which for him was fighting off an army of cute little teddy bears, aka Ewoks, acquiring godly powers, accomplishing his ultimate boon, the goal of killing Emperor Palpatine, and finally atonement, when his father chooses the light side right before his death. Luke Skywalker possesses many of the quintessential qualities of a hero, including courage, selflessness, and patience. What truly makes him a hero, however, is his ability to balance the increasing demands of his conflicting unconscious desires in order to make a decision that will ultimately bring about positive change. Let's look at how this balance is tested in the movie Star Wars Episode VI, Return of the Jedi. As explained before, the id is a part of the Freudian triangle that encompasses the most primitive and instinctual desires of the subconscious, such as excessive food consumption and desire for women. Luke is faced with a nasty personification of his id, or his instinctual desires, when he journeys to Jabba the Hutt's barge to rescue Leia. The grotesque nature of Jabba was a quintessential factor in Luke's suppression of his desires of his id. Seeing Jabba chow down on giant frogs and his mistreatment of Leia is shocking to Luke and helps him to realize that he shouldn't act on his instinctual desires alone. Emperor Palpatine, the head honcho of the dark side, also tests Luke's desire to stick to the Jedi moral code. Palpatine encourages Luke to give in to his anger and aggression, both id impulses, and kill his father. He aggressively incites Luke to give in and join the dark side. This is seen especially when Palpatine says, "You want this, don't you? The hate is swelling in you now. Take your Jedi weapon, use it. I am unarmed. Strike me down with it." He is desperately trying to push Luke over the edge and make his id take control. The Emperor wants to corrupt Luke, and how close he comes to doing it highlights the conflict present in Luke's psyche on his journey as a Jedi Knight. Just in case you don't remember, the superego uses learned morals as a self-critic to evaluate one's actions. Luke struggles to accept his destiny, despite the wisdom of both of his teachers, Yoda and Obi-Wan. Yoda advises Luke in the beginning of the movie, saying, "Remember, a Jedi's strength flows from the Force, but beware, anger, fear, aggression. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny." Luke's superego is teaching him that, but he still refuses to accept it. Later, Obi-Wan tells him that he must confront and then go beyond the dark side. The side your father couldn't get past. You're no longer so reckless now, Luke. You're strong and patient. After receiving the same advice from both of his teachers, he submits to his superego and decides to face his destiny, which means he must face his father. In the movie, right before his death, Yoda is seen surrounded by light, showing the pure and good of the light side. Ego plays a very important role in this Jedi Knight's decision-making. Luke feels ambivalence, a mental disconnect that occurs when one feels negative and positive feelings toward an individual. Luke feels this towards his father, Darth Vader. The ego is the mediator of the psyche. It balances the desires of the id and the superego so that it can make a change in society. Luke is the ideal ego because he's not swayed by the characters that represent his id and superego, and he is able to make a well-adjusted decision when he confronts his father. The balance present in his decision-making process, but also in the internal struggle that was present in this decision, can be seen in the movie in Darth Vader's death scene. As Luke holds his dying father in his arms, the anguish that is seen on his face is contrasted by the comforting blue light of the Death Star. This shows the ultimate victory of the light and the victory of a balanced psyche. The balance that is achieved between all the components of the unconscious allowed him to make the very best decision, even when some conflicting sides of the unconscious were pulling him in different and dangerous ways.
Space and time. Luke Skywalker and Billy Pilgrim, two vastly different characters with different goals and journeys. Luke's main goal is to restore balance to the Force by saving the galaxy and his father from the Empire. He is an example of an active hero who follows the hero monument. He experiences a call to action, initially refuses it, eventually accepts it, and finally successfully achieves his goals. He strives to bring about change through action. In contrast, Billy Pilgrim is an anti-hero whose only goal is to understand the point of living. He strays from the hero monument in the sense that he never accepts or refuses a call to action and does not take an active role in decision-making, establishing him as a passive character. These characteristics play an important role in the decisions they make and how they accomplish their goals. Let's look at how the id, ego, and superego influence their journeys. Both Luke and Billy experience a pull from their id, urging them to give in to their primal instincts. Luke successfully resists this pull, while Billy does nothing to counter it. He is taken over by his laziness and lust. He becomes defined by them. He is able to do this because he does not have a superego. He doesn't have a strong moral compass, so he can't feel responsibility. He can do whatever he wants because he just doesn't care. On the contrary, Luke's id is kept in check partly by his superego. Yoda and Obi-Wan help him develop the moral code that helps him make the best decisions for the good side of the Force. However, Luke's main drive comes from his ego. Luke's ego is the most prominent part of his personality, especially when it comes to his fight with the Empire. He has conflicting feelings of fear, anger, love, and sense of duty, especially concerning his father, Darth Vader. This internal struggle with his emotions, or ambivalence, plays an important role in his decision-making process. At the final battle, it is his ego that decides the outcome. When Luke stands up, faces the Emperor, and throws away his lightsaber, many people were probably yelling, "Why would you throw away your weapon?" But this is explained by his ego, as he has chosen his love and light by refusing to kill Darth Vader and join the dark side. While Billy does not battle with ambivalence, he does employ another defense mechanism, denial. Billy's denial is what leads him to accept his id and the desire not to feel. He ignores the problems around him, refusing to acknowledge any distressing emotions. His denial is part of what makes him an anti-hero. He either refuses to see the problems in the world or convinces himself he can't do anything to help. So, Luke as a hero versus Billy as an anti-hero. Luke tries to and does change things. He embodies the ideal hero, becoming a figure others look up to, both in his world and in ours. Children dress up as Luke Skywalker, wanting to go on adventures in space and save worlds. People can recognize themselves in Luke, as almost everyone has experienced ambivalence at some point in their life and has faced a difficult decision. Billy the anti-hero, let's face it, no one wants to be Billy. No one aspires to be him, to have his character traits. He is neither a villain nor a true hero. He doesn't try to be a better person. He doesn't struggle with decisions. He just does whatever is easiest. Luke takes an active role in his life. Billy takes a passive one, representing two very different styles of decision-making and living.
After observing Billy and Luke and their approaches to making decisions, you may question its relevance to your own life. You're right, you may never be asked to kill your father for the sake of the galaxy. But as humans with free will, we are continually faced with difficult choices. Where should we go to college? Who should we be friends with? What should we wear? Who should we date? And on and on and on. Every day we make decisions, from the most mundane to some of the most important that we'll ever face. What we can take away from Billy and Luke is a comprehensive guide on what to do and what not to do whenever we make a decision. Luke is a case study in the ideal decision maker. He weighs his options from both sides in order to make a deliberate and holistic final choice. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Billy's extreme indifference inhibits him from making any kind of truly decisive decision. From comparing the outcomes of both characters, using a holistic and open-minded approach to making decisions is your best option. It enables us to view the situation from several different points of view and finally make an educated choice. Our group stumbled upon this topic and were surprised by its pertinence after analyzing the fantastical scenarios of science fiction. The lessons we've learned from these characters and their experiences have been surprisingly similar to situations we have already faced, and we're sure we will face in the future. Science fiction's outlandish circumstances make the perfect vessels for reinforcing familiar ideas about loyalty, morality, and altruism. In regards to our academic career, Luke and Billy and their unique problem-solving skills prove applicable when addressing our own problems. There's no uniform way to solve a problem, and Billy and Luke's plethora of different problem-solving techniques provide inspiration when we're faced with making decisions. In our day-to-day lives, though no one we know right now is traveling through space or time, humans have and always will be faced with making big choices. Important decisions are an unavoidable aspect of the human experience. Looking back on this project, we recognize that we've always been fans of literature and fiction. But now, even more so, we see the value of using fiction as a guide to real life. No, we may never live in a Tralfamadorian zoo or attempt to dismantle the Death Star, but we will always face big decisions, just like our heroes in the books we read and the movies we watch. Their approach to making decisions transcends the specific situations they're in, and it serves to aid us in making the decisions that determine our own destiny, in time and space.